Inspector General of Police Dr. George Ekufudampare says his office does not intend to pursue an out-of-court settlement with journalist Latif Idrisu. Now, this was reviewed by a representative of the Attorney General, Nancy Rita Chumesi Esiama. Now, Mrs. Esiama had in January informed the High Court, hearing the case, that the Attorney General had asked the police to opt for an out-of-court settlement with journalists, to reach an agreement on this. Now, this caused the case to be put on hold. Now, 2 months on, the police say it wants the trial to resume. Latif Idrisu continues to bear the brunt of that particular incident, my colleague. But let's bring you a bit on that particular development.
The Attorney General had on Monday told the court the police service had been urged to pursue settlement as an option. During cross-examination of Latif Idrisu, however, an attorney at the AG's office had insisted a journalist was not assaulted by any policeman. Mr. Idrisu dismissed the claim and maintained he was beaten by many policemen.
So I feel the pains in my head, because that's where they used the butt of the gun to hit, and my rib, and in my right leg, and my chest.
Hit your chest too?
Yeah, they were hitting me all over, so.
These are the areas you feel pain, but generally, how are you feeling?
My neck as well, yeah, because of the slaps,
On Tuesday, the attorney Nancy Rita Chumesi Esiama told the court she had been instructed to plead for an adjournment while settlement talks are pursued. Justice Redu pointed out the case could progress while an attempt is made to reach an agreement. The attorney pleaded for the case to be put on hold. Lawyer for the journalist and the multimedia group, Samson Ladi Anyenini, told the court his side was not opposed to the idea of settlement. His concern was, however, the fact that the case had been unduly delayed. Justice Redu urged both sides to pursue the settlement talks without taking an entrenched position. Mr. Anyenini pointed out at this stage that certain comments made by the police were problematic. He made specific reference to court documents in which the police had claimed the assaulted journalist was not suffering from any medical complication. Justice Redu advised the police to consider getting an independent examiner if necessary. She stressed that settlement is always the best approach. The case has been adjourned to March 16, 2023. The court is to be briefed on the progress of the settlement talks.
So that was a report put together by my colleague Joseph Akable. He joins us on the via Zoom now with some details to this particular story. Akable, grateful. First, remind me of what exactly the AG's rep had stated in January in that particular context. And was she communicating the AG's position or that of the police?
At that time, the position she was communicating was that of the Attorney General. In fact, she said that her instructions from the Attorney General were to inform the court that the matter should not proceed and that the AG holds the view that the police should pursue settlement talks. And so in terms of what was being communicated, it was the position of the Attorney General that was communicated to the courts.
Now, do we know whether there was any meeting to attempt to deal with the issue of settlement?
Yes, we understand that there was one meeting between lawyers for the multimedia group and Latif Idrisu. Then there were other series of meetings between the Attorney General's office and the police administration. In fact, at the meeting between Latif and Multimedia's lawyers and the Attorney General's office, they were informed that they had started engaging with the police administration and they were going to get back to the lawyers for Multimedia and Latif Idrisu. Then came the meeting that took place that we are told were quite a number of meetings between the police service and the Attorney General's office.
Interesting. Now, do we know of the reason or what reason is informing the opting now for a full trial?
It's very difficult to tell, except that we know that the AG's office did write to lawyers for the multimedia group and Latif Idrisu, indicating that they have been told that the letter specifically reads, and I quote, says the IGP and the police management board would not want to settle the matter, but would want a trial to proceed. And so that is all it states. It does not explain in details as to what has informed this new position. And interestingly, about the fact that this time around, the communication is coming from the police, because initially it was the AG that was telling the court that he holds the view that the matter should be settled, and so has informed the police that they should pursue settlement talks. And this time around, saying that I've engaged the police and I'm being told by the police that they do not want to settle, so they want the trial to commence. And so we do not know what specifically has accounted for the change in this view and why perhaps the AG is not insisting on that advice that had urged on the police to pursue settlement talks.
How have the lawyers for Latif been reacting to this new development?
As far as lead counsel Samson Ladianyanine is concerned, this is a matter that has taken too long in court. In fact, in January, when this request for the trial to be put on hold was made, he had actually forcefully made the point that this was not the first time that was being attempted. And his fear was that they would put the trial on hold and come after a certain number of months and not much progress would be made in terms of the talks. And so he had wanted the case to proceed. And so once this latest information was put before the courts, he wanted the records to reflect that it wasn't the case that settlement talks had broken down, but rather the record should indicate that it is the police simply communicating that they do not want to settle the matter anymore, so that in the event it comes up again in court for any whatever reason, then that record should bear it out that in the first instance, when they opted to have that engagement, was the police that simply pulled out, and not the case that they've tried to meet the multimedia group and Latif at arm's length, and that has not been successful in terms of the discussions.
Okay, interesting. Let's talk about Latif now. Was he in court today?
No, he was not present in court. He missed court session last week as well. The reason being that he's quite unwell. His health situation has been that of inconsistency. There appears that he's well and there appears that he's unwell. And currently, he's going through one of those phases of being unwell. And so his lawyers actually did inform the court that with the trial set to resume, they were making a request to the court to consider opting for video link testimony in the event he's unable to show up in court, because there's also the probability that the doctors that attended to him outside the country have requested actually for him to come back for further treatment, and he's preparing to undertake that treatment. And so the concern is that in the event he's out of the jurisdiction for treatment or he's in the jurisdiction unwell, then the court should be able to put up with the video link for the testimony to be done via that. And the court did grant that request and has indicated its willingness to allow for him to testify via video link. And so the expectation is that some light will come soon in terms of expeditiously hearing this matter. The records will show that Latif was assaulted in March 2018. And so that is how long this particular matter remains outstanding.
Grateful to you. Joseph Akable is our legal affairs correspondent there. Now,